Hello, welcome to the Sports Cruise on the Our Media channel. My name is Jose. We'll be taking a look at what's been trending in the world of sports in the last couple of days. But don't forget to subscribe to our channel. That's our media channel. And then also you can click the notification button so that you always be updated as and when we drop fresh content for you. But today, let's talk about, exciting news. But this time we'll start off with one sad news that happened in Africa in a football game where it's been reported that over 56 people have died after a clash between fans of two teams in southern Guinea in the city of Conakry. So it happened when two sides were playing in the final of a tournament which was being played in honor of the military ruler of Guinea, whose name I wouldn't want to mention. But as the game progressed in the 8-second minute, there was a red card from the referee which didn't really sit well with one section of the fans. So, after that controversial decision by the referee, then the fans also took matters into their own hands and started firing stones. So the police also had to retaliate because they felt like it wasn't right for fans, to just throw stones onto the pitch, trying to injure players and all that. So the police also started to fire tear gas into the stands, and that was where it all started. The chaos, the confusion, fans running helter-skelter for their lives, and then that was where the stampede occurred. And in the video you can see what happened during the game, which isn't really good for the game of football. But there's no one to blame apparently, because perhaps maybe the call from the referee was the right one. But football has really evolved to a stage where these are things we don't really want to see in a game, and that was what actually happened. But the government of Guinea has come out to condemn what happened, saying that investigations are still going to be carried on, but they gave a number of 56 casualties and a lot more injured after what happened in that scene, the chaos, the stampede in Guinea. And we're wishing our condolences to the families of these deceased. But it's something we really want to see in our football anymore, especially here in Africa. So something interesting happened over the weekend in the English Premier League. While at the Olympic Stadium, it was West Ham that took on Arsenal in the English Premier League match week 13 fixture. But guess what happened? After the game, that match has been added to a list of examples for a word in the Oxford Dictionary. And guess what the word is? It's a phrase actually. It's the tale of two halves. So in that game between West Ham and Arsenal, the first half of that game saw 7 goals being scored. Arsenal scoring 5, and then West Ham scoring 2. So Arsenal scored the first 4 goals, and then West Ham responded twice through Aaron Wan-Bissaka, and then also Emerson Palmieri before Saka scored a penalty before the stroke of halftime to make it 5-2 to Arsenal. So 7 goals scored in 45 minutes of football. And then these two teams go into the dressing room for the halftime break. They come back, and then for 45 minutes there weren't any goals scored again. So after scoring 7 in the first half, both teams failed to score again in the second 45. So the Oxford Dictionary adopted, there's already a tale of two halves, which means a game that has the first half being the complete opposite of the second half. But as far as examples for that phrase is concerned, then that game between Arsenal and West Ham has been adopted. So for now, if you look into the English or the Oxford Dictionary, if I should put it, the Oxford Dictionary, then the newest example for the tale of two halves happens to be that game played between Arsenal and West Ham at the Olympic Stadium, which saw the first 45 minutes of that game see 7 goals or produce 7 goals, and then subsequently the second 45 not producing any goals at all. But the question is, does it make sense? Yes, to some extent it does. That for a game to have 7 goals and all 7 goals being scored in the first 45 minutes, then you'd be thinking that if you just mention the phrase a tale of two halves, then that West Ham versus Arsenal game will be the best scenario that pops up in mind. So, still in the English Premier League, something quite interesting happened again over the weekend. It's the month of December where the Premier League advocates for the Rainbow Laces. There's a campaign that tries to preach diversity, equality, amongst everyone and all that. So that's the Rainbow Laces, which we've seen previously in the Premier League every December. Now, there was a game that was supposed to be played. Ipswich were in action. So in the Premier League, in that game involving Nottingham Forest and then also Ipswich Town, and that game happened over the weekend at the City Ground, the home ground of Nottingham Forest. So it's obligatory for club captains to put on an armband that has been designed in the form of a rainbow. So the armband done by captains over that weekend has the colors of the rainbow, and we all know what the rainbow signifies in our era, in this modern era. Whenever we talk about the rainbow colors, then we know we're talking about pride, and then also the LGBTQ and co and so on. So that's what happened. Sam Morsy is the captain of Ipswich Town, and before the game, he told the club that he wasn't going to wear that armband that had or has the rainbow colors. And his explanation was just so simple, and it was just that because he is a practicing Muslim, he just can't go wayward or contrary to what his faith tells him. So that's the reason why Sam Morsy decided not to put on the armband for the Rainbow Laces colors or campaign. So that also forced Ipswich Town to also release a statement stating why their captain Sam Morsy, who is actually an Egyptian, so you can just imagine someone from Egypt, means he's a practicing Muslim, decided not to put on the armband in honor or in commemoration of the Rainbow Laces campaign. And the response from the club also felt so much heart-soothing, because they also felt it was out of respect. If they want all captains to actually honor that campaign, then they also need to respect the decision of the 33-year-old Egyptian who happens to be the captain. So it's for the first time I've seen a club stand behind their captain with so much respect, trying to understand his religion, because religion always comes first. So his religion and his faith, by agreeing to the fact that Sam Morsy isn't going to put on the armband, the rainbow armband, in commemoration of the Rainbow Laces month, which is quite understandable. And per what has happened with Ipswich Town and their captain Sam Morsy, then you'd be thinking that more Premier League clubs would also follow suit in the event where their captains decide not to embrace a certain idea or campaign. Then they might also throw their support behind him. But respect to Ipswich Town for that gesture for their captain Sam Morsy. To the Italian Serie A over the weekend, there was one shocking, sad, heart-wrenching news when Fiorentina in the city of Florence played home to Inter Milan. So guess what happened? The game was ongoing. After 20 minutes, Inter Milan were 1-up, and then during the game, or in the middle of the game, 22-year-old Italian who is on loan at Fiorentina from AS Roma, whose name is Edoardo Bove, just collapsed on the pitch, which left everyone on the pitch, in the technical areas, the dugout, and then also in the stands, all quite shocked, and then also in tears, because we've seen it so many times where players just collapse on pitches, and the aftermath isn't any pleasant news. So Edoardo Bove, who is just 22 years of age, started for Fiorentina in that game against Inter Milan, but after 21 minutes just went straight down, dropped dead to the turf, and you could just imagine what the signals it sent through the entire stadium. But thankfully, after several minutes, close to 30 minutes to let's say an hour, trying to just get him back, the medical team managed to put him on an ambulance, just took him to the hospital, a nearby hospital, for him to be catered for, which indeed he was catered for. And hours later, there was news, that's good news, that Edoardo Bove is okay and responding to treatment. So he was responding to treatment hours after the incident happened. But the Italian FA had to be prudent enough to call off the fixture at that game between Fiorentina and then Inter Milan indefinitely, which means it could be played at any point in time. But for Edoardo Bove, the good news for us is that nothing bad happened to the 22-year-old, so he's fine. But guess what? His first two words were after he regained consciousness. He said, "I'm fine," which is quite, like I said, heartwarming to know that after going through that, predicament, the player is back on his feet and responding to treatment, which is quite good news for everyone who was on the pitch, because you could see the likes of Barella, the likes of Lautaro Martinez, the Fiorentina players, together with the Inter Milan players, all in tears when the player was receiving treatment on the pitch, which is sad news. But thankfully, we've had a number of times where players collapse on the pitch and they do not make it back alive. But for Eduardo Bove, thankfully, he is back and alive. And the words he said is, "I'm fine."